Hi everyone, how's everyone here? I am today here with Rasha Elass from Newstex magazine. Hello Rasha, how are you?
Hi, Laura. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for taking the time to do this and be a part of our community of publishers. And we are very interested in showcasing your work, your publications work. We are very proud of our community of publishers or family of publishers. So thank you.
Thank
So
you.
why don't we start with a little bit introduction on the magazine, New Lines magazine, a little bit of the history of the publication and about yourself. What do you do? What's your role at the company? Brief introduction.
Absolutely. So we started about 5 years ago, and I'm one of the original co-founders of the magazine. And the way that the idea of the magazine came to be in the first place was because we felt there was a demand that was going unmet for a large segment of readership. And that demand was for long form, thoughtful essays, reportage, arguments, or first person from initially we thought from the Middle East. And that was our very original focus that, all of us, all five founders, co-founders of us, we cut our teeth on basically reporting in the field in the Middle East. So we each one of us has firsthand experience in how we felt the region was not getting the in-depth critical reportage that it really requires. So that's how we started.
Okay.
Yeah, but then we quickly, and we started actually with publishing just 3 essays a week. And a lot of it was working with the reporters based in the region. That's, our philosophy is always to bring the story from the inside out, from bottom up, not sort of from top down approach, where editors sit in a room very far removed from the field and think what the story is, and then they send a reporter to parachute in and do that story. That's just not the model that we have ever or ever will subscribe to. So we really like to develop reporters on the ground, and almost 100% of the reporters we work with are freelancers, and a lot of them are
Okay.
repeat freelancers. But anyway, that's how we started with covering the Middle East from reporters who are based there. Um, and yeah.
Okay. And can I ask why did you expand? You are now covering more than the Middle East, if I'm not wrong. So what
Absolutely, yeah. So as I said, we were originally publishing 3 essays a week, and we were a very small staff still. And we were, soliciting stories from local reporters throughout the Middle East. And a lot of them, English is not their first language. So we literally had to help them develop the story, help them write the story, translate their reporting, all that stuff, and edit it into a form that is, that met our editorial standards. And we
right.
found very quickly that uh, that there was a lot of demand for this. Quickly, we gained a lot of readership, and people were very, very interested in the reporting that we were bringing to the forefront. So we decided, well, let's expand from 3 days to 5 days a week, and let's
Okay.
expand beyond the Middle East. So, so we started expanding slowly. Initially, we thought, okay, let's just start taking pitches from other places around the world, from the global south mainly. I mean, that was the focus. uh,
Yeah.
and and we started, it was very difficult at first because we were kind of bombarded by pitches from Southeast Asia, from countries in sub-Saharan Africa, in North Africa, which we were sort of covering anyway. but not to the extent that we started to cover later. And so that's when we actually moved to hire editors with local expertise. So we have the Asia editor, the Africa editor, and then at some point the war in Ukraine started, and we can't not cover that. And we weren't really prepared necessarily to venture into covering Europe. We were focused on the global South, but then we can't just ignore the war in Ukraine. So we started to cover Europe. And of course, after that, we thought, well, we have to also cover the US. And we decided we're going to bring the same formula, which is from the grounds up, from the inside out reporting, and just kind of apply that formula to other regions.
Okay. I mean, you do such a great job, so congratulations on all of that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I would like to ask you, what is like the hardest part of reporting or covering big subjects like wars, conflicts, migrations, all of this?
So the question is, what's the question
like the hardest part of covering these types of big subjects?
The toughest part of covering the tough stories, basically, you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
To be honest, I would say the toughest part is, and we're always grappling with this as journalists and editors, and when we're reporters in the field, is being fair to the human story, the human angle. So, because in the end, the reporting journalism is all about the humans, right? It's not about the AI or the computer or the keyboard or whatever. It's about the humans who are affected and involved. And of course, humans are part of this larger ecosystem that includes the environment and our planet and all the other species and so on and so forth. So the biggest challenge is to cover any and every story with a sensitivity to that, to the humans involved. It's difficult. We live in sort of very strange times where words and language is weaponized, and people are dehumanized, and we really are, and also journalism is under continuous threat, not just from dwindling funding, but also from attacks and from power, seats of power, and so on. So in these times, it is very important for us. We see our role as journalists as navigating a lot of this sort of landmine of dehumanizing language and the new normal, and which should not be a new normal at all. And so I would say that is really the ongoing challenge day to day. And I can't tell you that we have solved it once and for all. It's literally a challenge, a new challenge every single day with every single story that comes in.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I've heard from, I'm not a journalist myself. I've heard from other journalists how tough like this part can be, and I hope like with this testimonial that you're giving today, that other publishers maybe hearing this interview can also like remember that the human side of the story is probably the most important one, right? So well, thank you for doing it the way you do it.
Thank you.
Makes the difference. It makes the difference. So yeah.
Much appreciated.
Well, now a little bit of a technical question here. I would like to know what tools do you use at New Lines Magazine that are like your must-haves for your reporting or fact checking.
So to be honest, we still haven't fully really embraced AI as anything reliable in our editorial process, but we keep testing it here and there. But so far, every step of our editorial process, which I'll tell you how it goes. It goes from, a freelancer in the field coming up with a pitch, sending it to us, and then us going through the pitch, discussing it together, deciding whether or not to commission. And then if we commission, we sometimes help the reporter to further develop the pitch. And then once they've finished reporting, they file it to us. And then from that point, when we take it in, we start to edit, and the editing process involves like a feedback loop with the reporter, going back and forth. And that loop also involves fact checking, and until we get it to a place where it meets our editorial standard, and then we publish it. So every step along that way is done by us, by the humans, mainly by our staff, and the reporter who files the story. So, and then every now and then we test the AI. Okay, well, I just tried the AI with this or that, and we compare like what the AI has come up with, but we don't see how we can rely, or actually, I have to say the places where we feel there's room for us to start relying on AI is really what we call, I'll call it the monkey work. And that's just like the work that you do kind of mindlessly, like, oh, I have to do this, and you can do it in your sleep, basically.
Yeah.
The AI can take over that part and do it for you. But the AI, we have found, does not have any discernment, cannot be trusted to like do its own A to Z process. So we have to give it just very specific tasks, and those tasks always have to be, overseen by one of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, awesome. And what metrics, or reader feedback matter the most to you besides page views, for example?
Of course, yeah. So of course, social media engagement, and all that. But I will tell you, I've been doing, I've been around the block in this field in journalism, and I was a journalist just around the cusp of, just when social media was starting to become a thing. But I do actually remember I am old enough to remember journalism just before social media. And I remember that sort of switch from when a lot of media outlets all of a sudden started to go nuts about social media, and they only wanted to hire reporters who were, who have social media followers and social media engagement and this and that. And that's when everybody was still just starting to understand how to cultivate and use social media, and what social media is and what it can do, and so on. So, and I did see during that process too many editors and media outlets put too much credence on social media and just give it too much importance. So, so then we saw the evolution of clickbait and all that stuff. So now we're past that. We've come out the other end, and now I don't really know what's going on with social media. It's gone haywire in so many different ways. So to be honest, of course, we keep a close eye on our social media engagement, but that's something, that's just not what drives our editorial coverage in any which way. But we do keep a close eye on social media engagement. And I would say, I would say one metric that we still sort of rely on informally, just because it's always there, even when we're not looking for it, is when we travel in our own circles, like conferences, or here I live in Washington, D.C., just kind of
Yeah.
in the Washington world, and people ask, where do you work? And I say New Lines Magazine, and they say, oh my gosh, yeah, I love your magazine. I love your coverage of this story, of that story. I listen to the podcast, this and that. So that's a metric that we keep a very close eye on. And that's not something larger media outlets really can do. It's just because of our size,
Exactly.
because we're kind of a boutique magazine. So, that's an important metric for us that we kind of keep an eye on.
100%. 100%. I mean, there's nothing more important. Well, I mean, it is really, like heartful. I don't know, when someone compliments your work in person, like they already knew about it before you telling them what was it. So I think that is amazing, an important metric to keep an eye.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I wanted to ask you about syndicating your content. You are partner now with Newstex. Did you think about syndicating your content before Newstex? Like, do you have other syndication partners, or what is the strategy there for the magazine?
Yes, we certainly did think about it. I do recall in one of our earlier meetings with my colleagues, fellow co-founders of the magazine, before we kind of expanded into what we are now. We would have our editorial meeting over Zoom because we're each in a different part of the world. And we would think, we talked about syndication, and we all thought it was a great idea. And to be honest, none of us not knew where to even start, where to even find. And because we were so busy kind of launching the magazine,
Or
it was just this idea that we kept, talking about every now and then. Would be like, what about syndication? If only we would be syndicated. But we had no idea where to begin, and it wasn't even a something on our top 100 priority things that we needed to do that week. So
totally.
when you guys reached out, we jumped on the opportunity. So that was very that was very, very helpful.
Well, I mean, that's the kind of the idea. We we exist to serve small to mid-sized publishers like you guys
Hmm.
that don't have like enough mental bandwidth to deal with everything.
Exactly,
So yeah,
exactly. Yep.
well, hopefully, fruitful relationship. And before I let you go, Rasha, I wanted to see if you can give a piece of advice. Think of for a new publisher who wants to start a magazine like yours. What would you say to that person?
Oh, okay. I love this question because I really do hope that more and more journalists aspire to do what we do. But so the advice is, stay small. Small really is beautiful. Yeah. Stay committed to the principles. Don't worry about shiny, noisy things like social media or the noise out there. Um, Lean into your strength, like the way we leaned into our strength, which was originally the Middle East, and we kind of developed a formula to serve, that we thought best serves storytelling out of the Middle East, and then that helped us sort of refine that formula, which we took to other parts of the world, which worked out really well. So I recommend doing that. Just lean into your strength. Never underestimate the power of expertise. We don't, stories that come from Asia, we run it through our Asia editor. Stories that come from sub-Saharan Africa, we run it through our Africa editor. We're not, we don't just kind of think, oh, well, I know all about Nigeria. No, I don't. I know all about Syria. I spent a lot of time covering the wars there and stuff. So respect expertise. Don't just think you can, Google something or use an AI, and don't fall for the trap of creating noise and creating content just for the purpose of content and all that stuff. Do it right and do it true. So that's really my advice.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything, for sharing all of, a little bit of your expertise that I bet it has to be huge. And I hope that, in the second opportunity, we can, keep exploring a little bit more of your career and everything. But thank you for everything that you've shared today. I feel inspired. I hope other journalists or publishers that, hopefully see or watch, this interview can also feel inspired or read it, because we also send it through our newsletter. So thank you, Rasha.
Thank
It's
you. Thank you,
a
Laura. It
pleasure,
was
a pleasure to
wonderful.
have you on board with us. So yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you.
well, keep on with the good job, and I hope we can see you growing over the years and stay by your side on this mission that you have.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Same here.
you.
Absolutely. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.